Hello, and welcome back to another edition of my attempt to gain a doctorate. Don't know why I keep going like that. We'll see if that keeps going and go from there. Sorry for the delay in getting this one out. It's been a busy couple of months. I was trying to get one every month, and unfortunately it's just not worked out this time. I think it was meant to go out 2 weeks ago, but consider this a bumper Christmas edition, because I have a lot of updates for my listeners, if there are any, and if not, then it's for me in many years to come to look back and go, that was a busy couple of months. I guess I'm going to focus on the non-academic stuff first, because then I've got a bit to talk about for my actual degree. So let's see how this goes. First thing really is that ice hockey, I'm hoping to get back to soon. It's been quite good fun to sort of be involved with the team and sort of get back into that whole society sort of culture again, which is really nice. Getting to know all of them, which is lovely. Big thing for me society-wise this term was a commitment I made to design the lighting for Backstage Society, which was for a show called The Wedding Singer, which is a show based on the Adam Sandler film, basically. And it was a really good fun experience, actually. I really enjoyed it, learning a new sort of system of things. The other things I've done lighting for before have been a bit different. This was new, particularly in terms of having to program a desk for the first time. For those who don't know, lighting, when I was learning to do lighting, it was all done in a more analog capacity, so every light would be on a fader, so she would go up, down, up, down, up, down. I gradually evolved on that, and now my new attempt at Leeds has been to learn how to do a desk where literally the idea is, on the night you just press the go button, execute. That was a really interesting experience. I'm really glad I had that. It's been good fun to get to know people and sort of see. So maybe next term. Unfortunately, it was a very intense process. It's not something I'm sure I can commit to doing again in the same way, at the moment at least, because I'm going to be very busy next term as well. The other thing this term has been a big commitment for me has been the big band I auditioned for and was accepted for some reason. So I've been able to play trombone again for the first time in a good little while, actually. It's been really good fun to get back into that regularly. Gigs have gone well. The big thing with the last gig, which for those who follow me on Twitter may have seen, certainly on Instagram, I think I announced it. I did announce it on Twitter. Is that I contracted COVID, it seems, from the last gig of the term, which has been a fun couple of weeks. I spent the last 18 months being so good and trying to avoid it as much as I could. I was working in 2 public-facing jobs during the pandemic, and it's turned out that going to a pub to play music has been what's done it for me this time. Is what it is. I've been very lucky in that I've escaped with a very, very mild flu for a couple of days, a couple of really, really bad days of aching and sort of lethargy, I guess, of fatigue, and then about a week of sort of more generalised fatigue. So I've escaped without too many bad side effects. Is what it is really, I guess. My partner had maybe slightly more adverse reaction, but we knew that was going to be the case anyway because of her health conditions. So I'm kind of myself very lucky that I've been fine, but there we go. That's been the big occupier for the last 2 weeks, really, which is maybe why this hasn't gone out sooner. It's what it is, I guess. In terms of the big stuff for me has been them being ill, but also the plans had to be cancelled, and of course for those in the future watching this, we are at the moment at the point where the Omicron variant is starting to affect a lot of Britain. From my sort of understanding of it, at least, it's starting to spread very quickly. And so because of that, because of the increasing cases more generally, the stuff that I was looking forward to about Christmas, unfortunately, has had to be postponed as well. For me, having been raised in a very Christian household, but not being of the faith anymore, Christmas has been a weird time since then, because there's a mixture of church message and secularist message, if I say it like that. So for me, one thing I always really enjoyed is going back home to my parents' place, and we do caroling around the local village, and that's always been a really big thing for me, and unfortunately has had to be cancelled this year, as it was last year, because of rising cases. And it is what it is. It's the right decision ultimately, because reducing that risk where we can, but I'm upset because I was looking forward to that. But yeah, Christmas for me is the big thing coming up now, because it is the 22nd of December. So we are hopefully soon going to be heading down for family plans, etc. But this comes at the end of quite a busy term academically, so now I'm going to sort of rocket through what I've been up to. Big thing has been reading, because this term really has been about familiarising myself with historiography, with the current understanding, and I promised I would sort of elaborate a bit more about what I'm researching. So my actual PhD thesis is looking at a very specific aspect of the army, of the home defence apparatus, sort of the process by which the British government hoped to defend Britain in the event that the French did invade, which of course they did on a couple of occasions in the 1790s. I'm looking at pre-1802. That's sort of my cut-off, because that's when the regiments I'm looking at were around. And so me coming into this, I very much anticipated having to do a lot of reading about how the British Army worked at the time. My supervisors have been lovely though, and particularly Kevin, who is very much a specialist in this field, has been really keen for me to look at other aspects of British society at the time, British government, and how the military fitted into that whole process. So he's been much more keen about me broadening what I was going to look at, which has been really interesting to learn. But as a member, I've got a lot still to read, and I'm trying to be thorough with it where I can, so I don't have to go back over it, which I'm happy is the right approach, because in previous times I've maybe skipped over stuff and thought I'll come back to it, and then never have. And because of that, my understanding is then lost out. So I'm getting there with the reading, but it's I was told about this when I first started, which is that it was going to make me feel a little bit weird not really doing anything. And so I'm certainly finding that at this point where I'm still feeling a bit listless, I guess. There's not really a sort of focus in the same way as writing 10,000 words is. Overcommitting to societies hasn't helped this term, so I'm definitely doing better on that next term, because next term is my transfer. And the transfer is the sort of important bit for those who are watching this, maybe looking for PhD advice. The transfer, or the upgrade, I've heard it called as well, at the end of your first year, is basically where you produce a sample of your writing on the subject. You would maybe, if possible, utilise some new research you've done, or some specific primary sources that you hope to come back to. And the idea is that you can then write a 10,000 word chapter, or a couple of chapters maybe, and it can be used as part of the examination process. Basically, for the university to check that what you're doing is good, representing the university well, but also doable in 3 years. And that's where I think I'm beginning to start thinking mentally about 2 years' time, 3 years' time, probably, about how my project is going to actually function as a 100,000 word piece. Because what I'd like to do is a whole range of stuff. I'd like to do lots of demographic work. I'd like to track how many people through the army. Something like one of my supervisors has suggested is going through the army lists and literally tracing back these men's careers, looking at the officers and looking at where they served before and after and during. And so there's a lot I could do. Is that practical in the PhD thesis? Is still yet to be decided. So certainly for me, the transfer is about trying to get a handle on where I'm going to go with this research. And we will see how that goes, really. So that's it. My big thing for next term is I've got a trip booked for the National Archives at the beginning of January, or middle of January, assuming I'm allowed to, assuming COVID allows me, which I'm really excited for. I'm looking forward to getting back in the National Archives. I think it's a wonderful building to work in. It's not the prettiest building externally. I'm thinking of the National Records of Scotland is in this wonderful, I think, 19th century building. It's certainly an older building, and it's absolutely gorgeous. As is a lot of Edinburgh. And where the National Archives are in Kew, it's a wonderful bit of London. Well, it is technically Surrey, in Richmond. The building is not the most aesthetically pretty on the outside. However, it is a wonderful building to work in. It's a wonderful resource. I love the catalogue. I did some training with the National Archives. The postgraduate archival research. It's called PAST, and it was a lot of good fun, and I forgot how much I love the way that the interface works for the National Archives catalogue. It's very intuitive, for me at least. So I'm very excited to be back there. I'm excited to see a couple of, particularly an old friend, colleague, which will be nice. And I'm very, very lucky that I have a family member who lives not far from Kew. So I get to go and stay with him, as opposed to commuting from Leeds every day. And it does save money as well. So I'm looking forward to spending a bit of time with the family member and with getting back into archival research. It's certainly going to be a new process because I'm looking at a lot of correspondence rather than documentation, which is something I'm more familiar with. So it'll be a learning experience, but hopefully it'll be very much worth my time, and particularly getting a better understanding of how the home defence apparatus practically functioned. Because to what extent the Prime Minister was involved, I'm still a little bit hazy on, and that's something no one's really done before, which is going to be nice. The reason this particular edition of my vlog has been a bit delayed is because I have been working on a big academia project basically the last couple of weeks. I can't say too much at this stage. I'm hoping to have more updates for you next year. The big thing for me has been forgetting how much I need to plan things out. It's worked out for this occasion, absolutely. I'm aware my editor might be watching this. So I promise it's absolutely come out fine for this one, and I'm not concerned. My big takeaway from this has been to get back into academic writing, which is to plan things out, and particularly to consider how things relate to each other, which is something I've been able to work for this. But I'm very much aware that I need to get back into the habit of. The big thing for me actually when I'm writing is that I naturally wake up at about 11 to 12 and work till about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, which weirds people out a bit. And it doesn't quite work with a normal 9 to 5 schedule. So I guess the big takeaway for me is that my sleep schedule goes haywire, so I need to be aware of that, because I end up with this weird offset, almost nocturnal thing, which in the summer actually is quite nice because I still get a lot of light. In the winter has been a little bit disconcerting because it is effectively dark every hour I'm awake, which is a bit odd. The other thing is sort of remembering to plan out for me. I made a note saying word count. I'm never very good at sticking to word counts, whether it's above or below. Normally above. I normally plan to go under and then go over anyway. And I guess for me it's always that you ask people how much they write a day. And actually it's been a nice reminder to me that I can comfortably get about 1,000, 1,200 words out in a day. I say day, my day, so between 11 and 4 a.m. When I can get into the right focus, I can just rattle off 400 words or 800 words, and I can sort of just get that done, and then the editing process then comes in, and the referencing, of course. So it's been a nice reminder to me that I'm not that bad. I thought I was worse than I am, which has been a nice reminder, a nice sort of encouragement. So there we are. I guess the editing I'm always bad at. So that's for the future, Rory. I hope you're getting better at editing, because I'm really bad at it without a bit of guidance. This is where I have to have a massive thank you to my supervisor, Kevin, for being wonderful in putting up with me constantly asking for feedback on things, and particularly with this, where I've been, I need some help, please. So yeah, it's been a busy couple of months, I've got to say. At this stage, I'm 1/3 of the way into my first year, so I am a 1/9 of the way through my PhD, supposedly, which is terrifying. God, no, a 1/9 of the way through already. This is what I mean. I'm feeling so out of my depth at the moment, actually. That's the best way of summing up. I feel like I've got so much to read. I'm looking at the stack of books there. This all needs to be reread properly. There's a lot to do. And I've got the archive to go through, but I'm hoping next term I can get a bit more of a handle on it, a bit more of an understanding of where I need to go, particularly with looking at transfer, but also key themes I want to discuss. Maybe we'll make a point of doing an edition of this in January, just focused on particularly what I'm looking at in terms of thematically, because I feel like I'm still a bit vague about it. So yeah, this is an update. If you have any questions, please do drop a comment, or this is on Twitter, I guess, if you found some Twitter or Instagram, whatever. Any questions, let me know. Happy to sort of answer questions about the process I'm going through, particularly for those who are looking at starting a PhD in the future. This term has been quite productive, even if I've not felt as much. I think looking back on it, I've done a lot. I could have done more. I could have been more disciplined in some ways, but this is a learning process, and it's fine to not be perfect all the time. That's, I think, the take-home message for me this term is that something's better than nothing, and as long as I'm moving forward, that's the important thing. So yeah, have a Merry Christmas, have a Happy New Year, and I will see you all next month, and indeed next year.